In California and across our country, the beef industry is committed to meeting the growing global demand for beef while simultaneously balancing environmental responsibility, economic opportunity, and social diligence throughout the supply chain. It's estimated that by the year 2050, we'll need 70% more food to feed a growing global population. And with urban areas continually expanding, consumers have an ever-increasing interest in how food is grown and raised in rural communities. Farmers and ranchers are dedicated to sharing their journey of continuous improvement and showing just how they produce nutritious beef to help feed a growing population. Recently, through a multi-day Pasture to Plate beef tour, Foodservice and nutrition professionals had the unique opportunity to have an inside look at the complex beef production life cycle and experience the passion farmers and ranchers have for their industry.
What surprised me most about the beef production process, I would say, would probably be how much care goes involved in each step of the process to make a quality product. And I didn't realize how heavily involved each aspect of, from the day the animal is, bred even, to the end of its life cycle and where, it makes it to our plate, how much goes into each piece of the process. It's amazing.
So I came on the tour because I wanted to learn more about where the products that we use in the restaurant, where they come from, and meet the producers.
I think the tour was very valuable, seeing in a very short time all aspects of, from the cow-calf operator to the to a feedlot to a production slaughterhouse, seeing it all kind of tie together and seeing the passion that everybody has in this part of the supply chain is what makes this industry, I think, second to none.
Guests on the tour were part of an experience that took them away from their everyday lives and immersed them in the beef life cycle production process and engaged them in an open and transparent conversation about the beef industry. The first stop on the tour was the first step in the beef life cycle, a cow-calf ranch. Cows are bred and calves are born and raised every year on cow-calf ranches, spending time grazing on pastures within sight of their mothers.
Welcome you to our ranch. It's called Rancho del Rio, and we're really blessed to have you guys come. We run cattle in the foothills, but in the summertime they tend to dry out, and so we augment that with irrigated pasture down here in the river bottom. You basically start with putting your bulls in with the cows to impregnate them. We run the bulls for 2 to 3 months, so they all calve at the same time, and typically it's in November. From there, once they're all calved, we vaccinate them for diseases they might come across down the road, and also supplement them for any deficiencies the ground might have here. And we get mostly minerals like copper and selenium. When we get to the corrals, I'll go through what kind of shots we give and why we give them. And each year we retain back a certain percentage. Your heifers, the ones you keep, are your best stock, and you want them to grow good. All our heifers, they actually calve by the time they're 2 years old.
They get up every morning, long before we wake up, to do what they love, and they make so little in as far as monetary, but their lives are so rich beyond anything that most of us could ever really appreciate, and that passion shows true in a safe, wholesome product that feeds and is on Americans' plates every day.
Once calves from cow-calf ranches are between about 6 and 12 months of age, they leave the farm or ranch and are sold and purchased at livestock auction markets. Livestock auctions are a critical link in how cattle exchange hands throughout the production process.
What you're looking at here is a scale. As the cattle come on, it will tell you what the cattle weigh, so the buyers know exactly what they want to pay for that animal according to the weight and what the market's doing that day. Those buyers, when they buy one person's cattle and those cattle perform great for them, they usually want to go back to the same people the following year.
In California, an important part of our beef supply chain is the dairy industry. Not only do dairy cows that produce milk during their lifetime go into the beef supply at the end of their life cycle, but bull calves, that is male calves, are raised and fed as a beef animal to also produce wholesome beef products, just like typical beef cattle.
Welcome to Madeira Son Dairy. It's a, I'd say, second generation. My dad and I and my mom, it's a partnership between the three of us. We, on our dairy, we milk 2,500 cows 3 times a day. We started in 1994. The first day we started milking cows, we milked 64 cows. This is one of our fields that we grow feed for the cows on. So you'll see right now, we just finished putting the corn rows up on Saturday morning, and we started irrigating with manure water. So you'll actually see this check that we're coming by right now is getting manure water. That's part of our recycle system, is to make sure that we utilize all the nutrients we have to grow the best crops we can and to feed our cows the best way that we can. So we switch up the type of crops that we plant, obviously because of the drought being one of them, and the types of soils we have. So this year we're going to go away from planting corn and plant everything as sorghum. Sorghum is a much more salt-tolerant plant, has a deep tap root, so you don't have to irrigate it as much, and we'll still get hopefully roughly the same amount of production. The idea is always increasing what we do for our cows, increasing comfort, making sure that we've got them healthy, happy, and comfortable. It'll actually, that sensor will say, okay, there's no more milk on. It shuts off the vacuum, and then the machine up there with that chain and that cylinder will go ahead and pull the machine away. The vacuum's off, and then it'll lower it away so that way the employees can get in and do what they need to do after she's done milking.
What surprised me most about this tour was actually the dairymen and the science and the animal husbandry and the innovation that they were doing, and especially considering we're in a drought here in California. Their recycling of the water and just how they maintain the sustainability of that very precious natural resource is very impressive, just how they've been creative to support their operation there.
To see on some of the dairy farms the irrigation and just the way they're utilizing technology and science, it just blew my mind. It was really nice to see.
Bull calves that come from dairies spend the majority of their lives at a very specialized segment of the industry called a calf ranch before moving to a feed yard. At the calf ranch, calves received individualized care and are raised and fed as beef animals in group pens based on likeness, including size and age.
Our dad started grooming his cattle a little over 50 years ago.
We work with 80 different dairies kind of through the valley, and kind of from Bakersfield up to Dos Palos. We bring in about 40% custom heifers, like the Maderos dairy, where I'll raise a heifer for the dairyman, charge them so much a day to do it, and then the baby bull I will purchase, and then and own that calf at that point, and then sell at a later point. These right here are where we keep our newborns. So the calves will stay in here kind of from 0 to 80 days. The calves are born. At that point, we take the baby calf. We make sure that they're on their end, they feed colostrum. And one of my theories is big, small. So I try to raise 100,000 calves like I have 10 calves. We get guys that walk through every day, twice a day to watch the calves. And we have veterinarians that kind of come up with our protocols as far as our vaccines, and they come once or twice a week to kind of make sure everything's going right. One of the things that we do here is every calf has an EID tag, so electronic EID. At any point we can scan a calf and know where it comes from. We scan it in and scan it out. So it kind of helps with inventory control, plus just knowing where each calf is coming from, where it's at. This is a competitive business where you have to produce a strong, healthy calf. The dairyman that I'm taking the heifer back to, or the feed yards that I'm selling to, so it's a real, if I don't do what I'm supposed to do here, there's other ranches that'll do it, or it's pretty competitive that way.
I was also quite surprised with the number of Holsteins that are not only being there for producing milk and cheese, but actually they're part of the beef industry was new to me, and a surprise to me.
The next step in the conventional beef production life cycle, after the cow-calf ranch or the calf ranch for dairy animals, is the feed yard. Many cattle are moved to feed yards, also known as feedlots, towards the end of their life cycle, where they are fed a scientifically balanced diet and receive daily care.
I should first welcome you to Harris Feeding Company. This is one of the largest cattle feeding operations in the United States. It's not the biggest, but it's one of the biggest. You can count on both of your hands the number of facilities that have the capacity to feed over 100,000 head of cattle. We have one of those. This facility has a one-time capacity of 120,000 head of cattle. If you're in the restaurant business, restaurateurs talk about turning tables. We turn the feedlot roughly 2.2 times a year. So what that means is we will feed and process a little over 250,000 head of cattle on an annual basis. As far as cattle type, there's two distinct populations in the feedlot, or that's kind of how we segregate them or identify them or talk about them. You'll see the black and white cattle. You were at a dairy yesterday, you were at Grimius Calf Ranch. Some of those cattle that you'll see here, actually, we purchased from Grimius Calf Ranch. So because of the large dairy population, I mean, this is Fresno County. All of our operations are in Fresno County. Just to the south of us is Tulare County, the #1 milk shed in the nation. So there's a readily available supply of these black and white or Holstein cattle. The other cattle, the non-Holstein cattle, we refer to as native cattle. So that's what you're seeing right here. Those are newly received feeder cattle. They came off somebody's pasture, somebody's ranch. The cattle are typically here anywhere from 100 to 365 days. It's solely a function of the initial weight of the cattle coming into the feedlot. The calves we buy, the Holstein calves, typically come into this facility weighing roughly 350 pounds. Those are the cattle like we would buy from Grimius ranches. Those cattle will be here for almost a year. The native cattle, we like to buy those cattle weighing anywhere from 700 to 900 pounds. So they'll be on feed anywhere from 100 to 140 days. We like to offload cattle and then let them rest for about 12 hours. When the cattle first arrive here, they're fed nothing but long stem alfalfa hay. When we get down to our feed mill, I want to show you some of the rations that we're actually feeding to the cattle. Talk to you about some of the things we do add to the rations that benefit the cattle from not only a food safety standpoint, but also from a performance standpoint as well. We do have a consulting nutritionist. Our nutritionist has a PhD in ruminology. He's constantly making adjustments to the rations based off of either the protein content of the alfalfa, how much net energy is available in the corn, which will vary different types of the year. So he's constantly balancing and changing rations.
Mike, here's some cowboys on the right.
Yeah, if you look to your right, we do it the old-fashioned way. I mean, there's a couple of cowboys, and they start riding these pins. And what they're doing is they're looking for any indication that might lead them to believe that an animal's sick. They ride in pairs. There's 2 of them that'll go into each pen. They've got to get all the cattle up on their feet. They have to look at every animal every day. But it's really an art form to teach people how to identify cattle before they get sick. If you look off to your left, this is an automated truck wash. And one thing that we know from a food safety standpoint is the research shows us that if you keep the transportation vehicles clean, you'll dramatically reduce the amount of pathogenic organisms that could potentially be taken into your processing facility. Truck drivers then will start in the morning with the first load of cattle. They'll offload them at the beef processing facility. They'll come back to get another load. Before they load up that second load of cattle for the day, they go through this truck wash. So once more, trying to reduce any potential cross-contamination.
I was surprised and pleasantly surprised to see how closely the beef growers work with the feedlot to improve quality over time. And there's a circle of information that comes back to the growers and information that helps them improve the beef quality.
I actually got to see everything from the very beginning of the animal's life all the way through. I mean, even down to the feed level, which was really fascinating to me.
The final stage in the beef production life cycle is the packing plant, where cattle are slaughtered in modern processing facilities and skilled workers break down beef carcasses into popular beef cuts for the retail and food service industries and for all of us to enjoy.
My name is Charles Fuller. I'm the cattle procurement manager here at Cargill Beef. And my job responsibilities is to supply an adequate supply of cows so we can run our facility. We source a lot of cull dairy cows, which they come direct from the dairy or from sale barns. And we're genuinely concerned with the welfare of that animal from the time we take possession and we haul it to the facility, we unload it. We want to make sure that animal's handled humanely and safely as it enters our process.
And my name is Lawrence Romero. I am a harvest operations manager, and so my job is to maintain the receiving of live animals onto the property, all the way through the humane handling, the harvest of the animal, skinning, evisceration, and also the beginning of the cold chain supply management. FSIS plays a huge role in what we do every day. So we have a large group of inspectors that are on site every day, and so they are making sure that we're following all USDA regulations. We do 100% what we call antemortem inspection. And so it's not just the inspector going out and looking in a pen of 400 cattle and saying, yes, these ones are good. They actually physically have to watch each and every one walk in front of us, walk in front of the inspector both ways. So they see each and every animal that gets harvested. From there, we also have a group of USDA inspectors that are inside the floor. So what they're looking at, they're looking the same thing our doctor looks at. So whenever we get sick, they talk about our lymph nodes and our tonsils, and they have us open our mouth and say, oh, so that's what they're looking at. They're looking at lymph nodes, they're looking at tonsils, they're looking at organs, or they're looking for discoloration, all those types of things. So if they find any of that, that'll be what it gives the red flag for them to have that animal go out for USDA to inspect. So each and every beef facility has that. That's nothing that's unique to us. That's everybody across the nation who harvests animals.
Sammy Renteria, I'm the fab manager here at Cargill. So I'm in charge of the fabricating of the cattle, whether it be for box beef or trim, which we would then send to our grind rooms to be processed into either case-ready format, hamburger, or into a chub format for also case-ready or further processing. So the term fabrication really means that we're taking the carcass itself, so half of a carcass, and we're breaking it down to its primal and subprimal sets. And then from there, we will either determine whether it's going to be best valued in a box, going to an end user, or into trim, going into ground beef. Safety is first and foremost, with food safety right next to it, but our employees have to know that we're here for them. We want to take care of them, and that they have a place in the future with Cargill, and we will do what we can to ensure their safety and they're going home in the way that they came in. And on the food safety front, it's all about personalizing. So everything we produce, my kids are going to eat as well. And so when I think about, hey, I've got to make the food as safe as possible because I know my kids are going to be an end user, that's enough for anybody to take the extra mile in making sure that their food is wholesome.
Once you see that package of ground beef in the grocery store, you have no idea how it got there. And it's really good to see the whole process. And I think as Americans today, we are so disconnected from our food sources, and it's really important to learn about where our food really comes from.
Beyond each tour stop in the beef life cycle, where tour attendees had the opportunity to talk one-on-one with those that raise cattle for beef, the food service and nutrition professionals also had the opportunity to connect with industry experts that provided engaging presentations on modern-day beef production, culinary and menuing inspiration, and a discussion on innovative beef cuts during a carcass fabrication demonstration.
I think there's some misconceptions out there, and I think that it would really be helpful for somebody just to be able to see the entire process and understand it a little bit better. I think it has a little bit of a bad connotation to some people, and I think this really would dispel a lot of the myths that people have out there about beef in general.
People need to see this. People need to understand not only where their food comes from, but see it from the rancher's perspective. And I think that there would be zero debate amongst any of the most stringent critics about this industry if they would just take the time out of their lives to go and visit these ranchers and see what it is they do and how much passion and love they have for the land, for the sustainability, for the animals, for the environment, and for the entire industry as a whole.
I think that I'd recommend this tour to others strictly to just understand the whole process.
And so I learned about how passionate the people that we met and the ranchers we visited, how passionate they are about the industry that they're in and raising beef.
If you only knew how much responsibility there is, that they really do truly care about the environment, the quality that's coming out, and how those two things are really related, and sustainability and how the life cycle actually truly happens. I think there's some pieces of the puzzle that people oftentimes don't know anything about, and I really think for me at least it was very valuable, and I think I could take that back and help communicate that to other people with more education.
I think it's important for dietitians who talk to people about what foods to eat to have a really good knowledge of beef and how it really fits into the diet, and to learn about some of these misconceptions and not to carry these misconceptions forward, but to learn the truth about how beef is raised and processed.
Farmers and ranchers are optimistic that through pasture-to-plate beef tours like this one, consumers can gain a better understanding of their complex industry that strives day in and day out to improve sustainability by caring for their animals, the land, and the environment. For it's not only their livelihood, but their passion to provide healthy, wholesome, delicious beef for a growing global population.